part of the problem that is what we're having today on the conservative side in the PCA is a fragmentation. So it's just almost a steady stream of a congregation here, two congregations there are leaving and going into other denominations they consider to be more faithful to the Reformed faith. I've wrestled with this issue ever since I was ordained. I was ordained in the Southern Presbyterian Church in 1971, and so I lived through the struggles of forming the PCA. I am one of the charter members of the PCA. I had a personal struggle, though, that I had to work through. Was it schismatic at that point to leave the PCUS, the nickname, the Southern Presbyterian Church? Now, that's going to sound really strange to today's hearers who are already jumping ship. Well, when I was ordained, we had women elders and ministers. We had campus ministers pushing abortion. And we had a lady named Angela Davis, who was an outright communist, pushing a horrendous social agenda. Not just that she was doing it, but she was being approved and doing it by the church. Now, the church still had its constitution, and so it was a difficult issue for me. And it was actually Dr. Smith's book, How the Goals Become Dim. I know some of our hearers might not like a few things in that book. Just remember at what time of the century it was written is what anybody, black or white, would have written probably in those days. But that book helped me deal with the issues, and although I did not think that the PCUS was apostate, I did think it was there were sound biblical principles for leaving. Now, believe me, particularly you younger hearers, there is no comparison to where the PCA is today and where the PCUS was then. And I think we've grown very impatient with idealism. We need to understand, for example, I tell my students this because they just haven't lived through it. When I got out of seminary, there were maybe in the entire region of the southern states, not counting a few OPC churches down in southern Florida, which I don't consider southern states, there may be only 2 or 3 self-conscious Reformed churches. And that's not an exaggeration. You had some Reformed people. You had the Pensacola Institute that was pushing books and speakers. You had Reformed Seminary, though, that began to put out men. And God blessed that so well, so that now the PCA, which formed out of the southern tier of churches in America, is full of Reformed churches and moderately Reformed churches. Churches that maybe aren't as zealous about the Reformed faith but have good worship. Others that be more zealous about Reformed faith and have bad worship. But it's so different. So my first call is patience, men. We're just not there.